What's up, you beautiful Madridistas? Kiyan Sobhani here. What a time to promote this. I mean, of all times to discuss Hey Jude and the iconic celebration. The shirt I have on right now, Hey Jude. This is designed by our very own resident cartoonist, Finn. It's my favorite shirt that Finn has designed. It's on sale from now until February 1st, and then it will disappear forever. I put the link in the comments and in the show notes if you want to grab this Hey Jude shirt. But we got a lot to talk about as Real Madrid come away victors at the Mestalla 2-1 in what was an incredibly eventful game. So let's break it all down. Let's start this podcast. Let's go.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, kicking off the first post-game show of the 2025 calendar year by giving shout-outs to our presenting sponsors, starting with TAFC Academy. Go to tacsports.ca if you're in Toronto or anywhere near Toronto when you need to enroll your kids, whether it's a soccer camp, basketball camp, swimming camp, March break coming up. You want to make sure your kids are covered during March break. Go to tacsports.ca. As always, we have eternal gratitude to all the incredible people at the Academy who hosted us so graciously at the podcast in Toronto. We'll be back. tacsports.ca. Also, you have 4 more days to take advantage of the Moji Mates promotion, specifically for Managing Madrid Podcast listeners. Go to moji-mates.com. Use code MojiMates20. And that is valid until January 7th. If I were you, I would head on over there right now and just buy out the entire Jude Bellingham inventory. Go to moji-mates.com. That's moji-mates.com. Moji-mates.com. Use code MojiMates20. That coupon code is valid until January 7th. All right. We got so much to discuss. And I'm going to start with... I suppose I was trying to figure out, should I start this in chronological order or reverse chronological order? In the end, I decided to just go with whatever I feel is natural. And I think this performance, if we're going to be analyzing it and discussing the good and the bad, to me, the result papered over a pretty poor performance and a lot that could have been prevented. And Jose Perez tweeted this on his account on Twitter, and he was bringing up the data that Real Madrid have a negative goal differential in the first 15 minutes of games in this season in La Liga. So they basically start every game down a goal, and they've done well enough in the second half to recover. And on one hand, you can praise the heroism, the never say die attitude, the remontadas, the mental fortitude, and the clutch. On the other hand, you can be very critical of the way they approach games, the way they dig themselves holes unnecessarily against teams that have far less talent than they do. And in this particular case, a game against Valencia at the Mestalla, we know there is no surprise by me, by you listening, by Carlo Ancelotti, by the board, the players, anyone. There is no surprise that no matter how badly Valencia struggle in the league table and how bad their form is, they are a difficult team to tackle at the Mestalla. We know this, right? And yet we go there and we get manhandled anyway unnecessarily. And I think it's interesting because when you look at the numbers at the end of the game, everything stacks up in Real Madrid's favor. The XG, the field tilt, the possession, everything is pretty strongly in Real Madrid's favor from a numerical data standpoint. And then there's other things like referee decisions that went against Real Madrid, which we'll get to. That's not the priority for me right now. We'll get to that at some point in the podcast. But it's a huge problem that they start games this way. It's this huge problem, and to me, it's a huge reason why Real Madrid don't defend league titles as nearly as much as they should throughout their modern history. You started off this game. I guess we'll start with the starting lineup. The fullback situation is what it is. I noted this many times. You guys are probably sick of me hearing it. I stated it again on Twitter today. The fullback situation is about as bad as I can ever remember it. There was that weird and depressing period post Roberto Carlos, Michel Salgado, where we like flipped through players like Miguel Torres, Raul Bravo, Cicinho, Carlos Diogo. That was a really bad era. But certainly since that era, this is the worst it's been. Lucas Vazquez continues to be a defensive liability. Ferland Mendy, who in years past we would justify his poor attacking nature because he would typically make up for by being elite defensively. But you look at so many sequences tonight and the way he's just jogging back in transition nonchalantly. If you're not defending or attacking, you're a huge liability. And we have this situation with Camavinga. The next big talking point here is Camavinga, and actually he may be number one because you cannot afford to bench Camavinga. He should be a locked-in starter. I don't care if you have to start him at left back because he's your best left back, or start him at the 6 because he's your best 6, or start him as an 8 because that's actually his best position out of all those three somehow. He needs to be on the field for how much he contributes defensively, how much he contributes offensively. You saw it immediately when he came in. In the first 3 minutes of this game tonight, when he comes in, he made more positive off-ball runs to create space than Ferland Mendy. I was going to say all game, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say all season. Camavinga's first touch of the game, if I'm not mistaken, I might be misremembering some of this because this is right after the final whistle. There's quite a bit of emotion involved with the way Jude won the game at the end. Camavinga's first touch of the game is an interception high up the pitch. His second touch, like seconds later within the same minute, is he shows as an outlet between the lines for me. I want to say Brahim, but I'm not sure. He receives the ball in a tight space, carries the ball, gets fouled. Like immediate impact. He's involved in Modric's goal. Great combination link-up play between him and Brahim, who was another positive influence off the bench, and Jude and Modric to finish off that one. Camavinga needs to be on the field. I don't care where it is. I don't care who you have to sacrifice. I actually have less issue with who Carlos started in midfield today because I think based on merit, Ceballos has been one of our better midfielders this season. I'm fine with him starting. Fede Valverde is indispensable. He should be starting. Jude Bellingham obviously should be starting. I think if you want to make room for Camavinga in a game like this, it has to be either at left back or you bring him in for Rodrigo and then you just go in with Mbappe and Vinny and Jude up top. So that needs to be... Camavinga is one of the pillars of this team. I don't know how many times I can say it more than I already have. I feel bad being so repetitive about it. I've actually been saying this for a couple of years now. He's just too good at too many different things. And the margin of error with this team is too little the way they're playing now for Camavinga to not be on the field as a locked-in starter. The same way we treat Jude and Vinny and Fede and Rudiger and Courtois, Camavinga needs to be in that list of players who are undroppable. That's the way I see it. Now, you could argue like, okay, rotation, rest, whatever, but like this is the first game of 2025. The team hasn't played, so that doesn't fit into this discussion tonight. So that being said, the team's right. So I'm scatterbrained right now because there's a lot on my mind. Back to the midfield and not having Camavinga there as the anchor. Zone 14 was extremely unprotected. You saw the amount of times Valencia broke free behind the lines. They had free men right at the top of our box. Hugo Duro could just wander between the lines and no one was picking him up. And the way the double pivot was set up was that Ceballos and Fede were in the double pivot and they were spread far apart on defense. And so there was no one monitoring that space right behind him down the middle. And that's where Hugo Duro and Almeida made a ton of runs that hurt us. And then, of course, these several weird defensive sequences where like a ball over the top of Vazquez, Rioja cooks Vazquez, and then on the goal itself that Valencia scored, Rodrigo gets fouled, by the way. There's a clear angle that shows that he did get fouled. that should have been reversed. There's an entire discussion of like Real Madrid didn't play well and all this, but then there's another truth that the referee got a couple things wrong tonight. One of them was the Rodrigo instance leading up to the goal. Rodrigo was fouled. There's a replay that shows it clearly, and that's VAR's job to find the replay that we have at home. Somehow they don't have it, so whatever. But that should have been a foul. But then you look at the dominoes leading up to that. Mendy, the way Mendy was playing so narrow in that moment, and there's a scramble. Javi Guerra makes a run undetected from midfield. No one picks him up. And then Lucas Vazquez has zero reaction to the rebound to Hugo Duro. So there's a lot of things that are preventable, and Real Madrid should not be digging themselves a hole. I was totally open to the idea that Real Madrid would recover and win this game, but it's also fair to analyze how Real Madrid start these games, and it needs to be far, far better. Jesus Christ, the comments are popping off. I don't have time to read all this. I'll get distracted, but I'll just keep it on the super chat tab, and I'll get to the super chats in a second, guys. Okay. So those are some of the things that I think Real Madrid got wrong in this game, and the wingback situation is really poor, and Camavinga needs to start. So those items need to be addressed. To be fair to Carlo, I don't know what you could possibly do but Lucas Vazquez. At least with the left back, you have Fran Garcia, you have Camavinga. The right back, you're looking at a mishmash of Raul Asensio, who his sample size there is like 30 seconds. And he'll probably be an upgrade over Vazquez defensively. Probably, I think he will be. Won't offer much moving forward. Vazquez doesn't offer much either, but he does make overloads and underloads and does create some space on that offensive end. And Fede Valverde is your other option at right back. Again, none of these situations are ideal, and Carlo can't do much about that particular aspect, but he is in control of several other things. The way this game unfolded after Real Madrid went down a goal was that Valencia went into a deeper and deeper and deeper block and started to flood the box with each passing minute, which basically two things happened. One is that Real Madrid just brought their line much higher. They were keeping a lot of possession in Valencia's half, tried to get into the final third. There was a lot of white shirts in there, plugging holes, plugging spaces. And it was getting tougher and tougher for Jude to sling those vertical passes into the box, and those through balls, they were getting intercepted because there just wasn't much space. The couple of times that his through balls did get pulled off, one led to the Mbappe offside goal. Mbappe, another poor performance tonight. Again, not holding his run properly, didn't look confident on the ball. This was kind of like a regression game for him. And then, of course, the goal, which Bellingham did find Modric with the through ball. And apart from him and Ceballos, there wasn't many people looking to progress the ball in a vertical manner in midfield. Fede Valverde did have a few crossfield switches. Ceballos had a couple of really beautiful passes in this game. But basically, the way the game unfolded, Valencia retreated deeper and deeper. Real Madrid had more and more of the ball. A lot of difficulty breaking the low block. And the couple times they scored. It was an offside, or we did earn a penalty. A note on there's two thoughts I have on the penalty. One is that I'm kind of struggling with the idea that this is some kind of merry-go-round of penalty takers. I think it's a lot easier if we just have a very clear penalty taker and we know who it's going to, and we just have a designated penalty taker. I'm not entirely sure if this like random, like whoever's feeling themselves in the moment necessarily works. There's an alternate universe where this take that I have right now is complete nonsense because whoever takes the penalties is scoring, whether it's Mbappe or Jude or Vinny. But that's obviously hasn't been the case for a while. The second thought I had is that penalty should have been retaken. It doesn't, like, if you look up the rules, it doesn't actually matter that Dimitrievski didn't need to save the penalty. If he's off his line, the penalty should be retaken regardless of the outcome. If there's a rebound off the post and he's off his line, it should be retaken. Simultaneously, it should have also been retaken because Valencia players were actually encroaching their position in the box. They were in the box while Jude was taking his penalty. It should have also been retaken because of that. It didn't matter that Jude hit the post. There wasn't a save. That penalty should have been retaken. So those are my thoughts on the penalty. Those are the two things that I think the referee got wrong, which brings us to Vinicius red card. Vinicius red card is justified in my opinion. You can talk about the way Dimitrievski threw himself to the ground, which was very embarrassing. He brought attention to it. Cringe dive. But Vinicius went at Dimitrievski's face, pushed him down. Clear red to me. But for some reason, nobody's talking about Dimitrievski actually going up to Vinny, shoving him in the shoulder, and pulling on his dreadlocks. That should have been a red card too. So either you send both of them off or send neither of them off. So I'm a little bit confused as to why we have these double standards with these things, the way we look at it. But like Vinny can't react like that. And I should have prefaced this all by saying that once again, Vinny's subject to racist abuse, both within the game, but also before the game from disgusting fans. And it's just this never-ending story in La Liga with the way that fans and feel so entitled and unapologetic about behaving in this disgusting manner. So let me go through things that what I should actually do right now is look up Carlo's quotes. Lucas Navarrete is at the Mestalla right now, and he said that he would send me voice notes to play on the podcast, and he just sent me one actually 45 seconds. So I'm going to play it. I hope you guys can hear this okay. It's WhatsApp voice note into my microphone, so it's not going to be as crisp as my voice, but you can feel free to turn your audio up for the next 45 seconds and then turn it back down when I talk if you need to. Lucas Navarrete live from Mestalla press row for Managing Madrid.
So just sitting here in the press conference as Ancelotti is about to walk in. Obviously, Real Madrid escaped with 3 massive points here. Karma kind of punished Valencia here. And it wasn't a very good performance by Real Madrid. I thought Camavinga changed the outcome of the game, and I'm not entirely sure if this will be, like, this poor performance despite the win won't be a blessing in disguise, because I think Ancelotti should make a decision about the left back spot and just start Camavinga from now on, even if Camavinga doesn't like it. That's my main takeaway from this game. I'm going to try to ask Ancelotti a question about this matter. Let's see. I'll keep you updated about it. Ancelotti just I asked Ancelotti about the Mendy and Camavinga decision and the left back spot and all that. He just basically said that Mendy has completed a good performance. He obviously doesn't want to throw Mendy under any kind of bus. After this, he just said that it's a different profile as a player, and that the team benefited from this different profile on the left back spot. But he didn't want to throw any kind of shade at Mendy after that performance.
So in case you're just joining now or you couldn't hear it properly, that's Lucas Navarrete live from the Mestalla, covering the game as press for Managing Madrid. And he asked Carlo Ancelotti about Mendy starting over Camavinga, and Ancelotti said Mendy's profile was needed and he played well. A couple other Carlo quotes. He says, "We're going to appeal the Vinicius red card. I don't know if they'll accept it. We don't think it was a red card. The victory is fair. In the first half, we were bad, without balance. After the goal, we started to play. The second half was very good. With all the difficulties, I think it's deserved." The truth is, so this is about the penalty not being retaken. He says, the truth is that Dimitrievski didn't have his feet on the line, but it's a reading that doesn't interfere if he doesn't touch the ball, and it doesn't have to be retaken. If he doesn't touch it but interferes, I don't think he interferes. It bothers me that we miss so many penalties. I think I have to take responsibility for choosing who's going to take the shot. Okay. And Bellingham, on Bellingham, Carlos says the missed penalty gave him extra motivation. He gave a few minutes as only he can. He worked hard. He helped Mbappe. The goal is a well-deserved reward for him for the game he played. There's like a million questions about the red card. I think this part is actually some of what he answered to Lucas. He says the game changed a lot earlier before Camavinga came in for Mendy, in that Mendy played his game. We needed a player who was a bit more inside, and he had different characteristics to Mendy. Camavinga, I mean, is just a bona fide game changer. And it's not uncommon for Camavinga to come in off the bench and completely tilt the game on its head. So yeah, that's all of the Carlo quotes. I'd also like to just flip through my notes a little bit more before I get to Super Chats. So I think I spoke about enough. I spoke about the main people in the starting 11. I think Vinicius, apart from a couple good movements, struggled with getting past Fouquier consistently. And this wasn't really the top tier performance from neither Vinny nor Mbappe, which I think hurt us a little bit offensively. And Jude was the guy who was really trying to make things happen offensively and put the right balls into the box, because Rodrigo was very quiet. I mean, I don't think I have any Rodrigo quotes or notes. And I think that's partly because Rodrigo just wasn't that prevalent in this game. I have to look at his touches. Rodrigo had 48 touches in 67 minutes. So for comparison, I don't know. My tab just... Oh, yeah. So for comparison, Jude Bellingham, 73. Obviously, he's playing in a deeper role. And yeah, I don't know. I just didn't notice Rodrigo that much. So it was quiet game for him. There was a lot on Jude in this game. And Brahim obviously helped a lot tremendously off the bench when he came in. Notes on Tchouaméni. I thought he could have done better on a couple sequences, but he was very strong in the air, had a couple really good passes into the box, and for the most part was pretty good. This is kind of the Tchouaméni experience. He does a lot of good things and then has a couple lapses that you can magnify. Courtois, pretty solid. There was that... I mean, we haven't talked about it yet because there was so much to get through in this game. That last second Rioja shot that went in off the post, because I was like, oh my God. I thought for sure that was going in. That looked like it was going top corner. And even when it hit the post, I thought it was going to ricochet back in the inside of the post and go in. And my mind flashed to a Managing Madrid tweet, because someone on the Managing Madrid Twitter account tweeted that Bellingham finally got his Mestalla game winner. And I was like, oh man, maybe that was too soon to tweet that. So that Rioja shot off the post was a heart-stopping moment. And this very well could have ended up in a draw, despite a pretty heroic finish by the end of it. But Courtois did his part in making sure it stayed at 1-0 and not 2-0 at a couple points in the first half. Ceballos, solid vertical progression on the ball from midfield. I think when you see how he passes and he tries to find the right channel down the middle, he's definitely making a case for himself to be a regular in the rotation, and he has been, to Carlo's credit and also to his credit, because he's been really good this season. Vinicius, talked about him. Rudiger, I mean, I think he could have done a bit better defending crosses in this game. And he's normally pretty reliable at those. But he left a couple free headers in the box with his just blindsided by runs behind him. Spoke about Vazquez. Spoke about Jude, who actually was doing a lot of good things defensively too. Great cover shadowing, great on the ball. The only thing I would like kind of nitpick with him was the missed penalty, which, hey, it happens. And also a lot of his through balls were intercepted because there was just no space. And yeah, I think I got through everyone. Again, positives off the bench. Brahim, very good. Modric, immediate impact. Camavinga, obviously an immediate impact. And Raul Asensio came in the 96th minute. What am I going to say about him other than the fact that he had 2 passes, completed one of them, and I think had a pretty strong challenge and is very, very limited, like 2-3 minute sample size on the field. All right, a couple of super chats, and then we're out of here. John Smith says, is this being gentlemanly club thing real or not? If yes, we need to either tell Vinny to behave or sell him. He's both an embarrassment and a liability. I think there are moments like tonight where he just needs to keep his head. That's all I can say. I mean, I think there are plenty of times, and I defend Vinny more than anyone. There are plenty of times where you can say that he was being provoked and he's reacting. And in this case, he actually was being provoked. But you know that if you react to someone pushing you by putting your hands on his face and shoving him, I don't like whatever, you understand what I mean, right? Dimitrievski made a meal out of it. He kind of like felt the contact and he was like, yeah, I think I might just like throw myself to the ground now. But Vinny knows, he definitely knows that that is a punishable offense by red card. As I said earlier in the podcast, you can give a red card to both or to none of them, given the fact that he literally had his dreadlocks pulled and reacted to that. But I think Vinny does need to have those moments a little bit more channeled. One more super chat. Tajuddin Khan says Mbappe needs to step up. Camavinga MVP for me. Bellingham GG. Echoed. I think I've echoed pretty much all of those sentiments in the in this post game, which was all over the place. What can I say, man? I would trust Jude Bellingham with my life. Another game winner at Mestalla. I still count the one that was wrongly disallowed last season. Jude Bellingham, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being our striker. Thank you for being our left back, our right back, our CM, our DM, our AM. Appreciate you. Thank you for being the glue that holds Real Madrid together. We'll be back on Monday. Thanks for tuning in, guys, live on YouTube. Big audience tonight. Don't blame you. There's a lot to go through. If you just joined us, we hit a lot. And by we, I mean me. Flying solo today. But yeah, flew through it. Real Madrid 2, Valencia 1. A W to start 2025. And if you haven't already, go listen to a few segments. Diego and I earlier on YouTube today, just surrounding the whole Dani Olmo thing, if you want to listen to him kind of breaking down and melting down. I did my annual New Year's mailbag. That was a ton of fun. That will not have as many views as this one, but it's honestly my favorite episode of the entire year. We hit a lot of talking points, so go listen to that as well. We'll be back for our members on Monday. Go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid if you want access to that and a ton more. And if you can't join through Patreon based on the country you live in, just simply hit join underneath this YouTube video or on the YouTube memberships section on the channel. Thanks, guys. Peace out. Hala Madrid.